Hello everyone, my name is Rajat Agrawal and I'm here to help you with the GMAT prep, which is the first step towards realizing your MBA dream. Now, most test takers in the quant section have one particular problem. They feel that they're able to do the problem solving part quite easily, but get bogged down by what we call as data sufficiency. That's correct. Data sufficiency is what bothers most test takers. We'll try to understand what's the fuss about, right? Because you'll hear a lot of people saying that they are not able to achieve the really high scores due to limitations in data sufficiency. So let's get to understand what's this all about. So as you're aware that in the quant section there are two types of questions. One is problem solving, which has 5 options. You get to choose one. And the other is data sufficiency, which also has 5 options, but in a slightly different way. So in data sufficiency, what happens is a question is asked with incomplete information, and it is followed by 2 statements that provide additional data, right? So 2 statements that provide additional data related to the problem. Your job is to check whether the data in statements is sufficient to answer the question asked. Alright? That's why the name data sufficiency. You have to check whether the data given is sufficient or not to arrive at an answer to the question. Right? Be very clear. So you have to choose an option accordingly. The options are standard in GMAT. They never change from test to test. Now this is an example of what the options look like on every data sufficiency question. So these are 5 options on data sufficiency. These are standard across all GMAT data sufficiency questions. You don't have to bother about memorizing them right now. If you practice a few questions, you by default will be able to memorize these options. Now what we can do initially is you can use this kind of a grid, A, D, B, C, E. You can write these options in this order and use this kind of a grid to eliminate options while solving so that you don't make some rookie mistakes. There is a process to it. As you can see, you have to first check whether the statements alone are sufficient to answer, which means you will check statement 1 whether it is helpful in arriving at an answer. Then you will check statement 2 whether that helps to arrive at an answer. If either of these statements alone are sufficient, then you don't have to check them together, right? Because if you already get an answer with any one of the statements, then the job is done, right? You will only look at third option if your statements 1 and 2 alone are not able to answer. So for example, if you can't get an answer from statement 1 and can't get an answer from statement 2 either, then you will take the information given in both the statements together and check whether that helps you to get an answer. If even that is not sufficient, then you are left with the 5th option, that even together the statements are not able to help. Let's try to understand this with a simple example, right? So that's your question. Find the value of x. We're taking a very elementary example to begin with. Find the value of x. The question is this. Statement 1 says x square equals to 25 and statement 2 x equals 5. You can use this grid over here to initially avoid making mistake. And these 5 options are standard, as I said. You could pause the video for a while and try answering the question on your own and check which option you get. Alright. Now let us look how we approach this. So statement 1 tells you x square equals 25. Now some people say x square equals to 25 means x equals 5. But remember, it's a square, a quadratic equation means there can be 2 answers. X can be 5, might as well be minus 5. So x can either be 5 or minus 5. two possible values of x, not a unique answer. Now, what's important to remember in data sufficiency is that only if you get a unique answer, it is considered sufficient. If you get multiple possible answers for a value, then that is insufficient information, right? An answer must be unique, particular, specific, cannot be two possible values. So we'll say statement 1 is insufficient to answer the question, because sufficient only if there is a unique answer. So statement 1 is insufficient if you're using this kind of a grid. Now see, statement 1 alone could have been option A or option D, right? Because this says 1 alone is sufficient, this says each alone is sufficient. So if statement 1 is not sufficient, we can rule out A and D together, which is what I have done here. A and D can't be your answers. Now you will check for statement 2. Statement 2 directly tells you x equals 5, no problem there. It's a unique value. Statement 2 is sufficient, gives you an answer. So that means statement 2 alone is sufficient. Statement 1 was insufficient, 2 sufficient. That leaves you with option B, which says 2 alone is sufficient, 1 alone is not sufficient. So we ruled out A and D. Next we check for B, that answers the question, that gives you the right option, right? So this grid really helps in moving in a correct order in checking the options. Alright, so this was just one example of data sufficiency, pretty elementary example. You stay tuned for more questions, more examples. I'll cover data sufficiency in the subsequent videos. Please subscribe to the channel, follow, subscribe, like, share, right? This is where you will find solutions to most of your GMAT problems. You can connect with me on Telegram. This is the link also mentioned in the description below the video. So do get in touch with me on Telegram, and I'll see you soon. Thank you so much.